Hey there, my name's Ryan.
And I'm Joel.
And right now we're going to do our top 10 favorite games.
These are my favorite games as of today. So a game, for example, like Pandemic, I used to love. I played it to death. It was one of my first games getting into hobby board games, like a lot of people. But now it just falls a little lower for me.
Yeah, and they are our top 10 favorite. We're not claiming they're the greatest games of all time. I know some of mine are not the greatest games of all time. Some of my games are just games I really like.
Can you promise me Sergeant Major has not made this list?
Sergeant Major is my number one. It's the best card game ever, which becomes the best game ever.
I guess you can do this alone.
So my number 10 is Mysterium. And Mysterium is just a game where you're trying to help each other, all on the team, figure out how this guy died and he's a ghost now. So you're trying to say, okay, what room did this happen in? Who did it? You know, basically kind of like Clue. But the way it's done is the ghost gives these cards that are like these crazy pictures that have things like mice that are swinging on chandeliers, but they're actually eating ice cream. And actually, you realize the whole card is ice cream.
It's actually not ice cream, it's oil.
The whole game, the ghost is giving these cards, and he gives a card silently. So the ghost just goes, because all they can say is, "Ooh," and you give him a card, and the players take the card and go, oh, well, which one is mine? And they're looking at the board, trying to figure out what room is their room.
I really feel like the victory is the sweetest when you're the ghost. Because you really feel like it's pride. You're like, I did this.
I'm dead.
I brought you to this.
I'm dead.
I've led you. I've led you in.
I might have died.
It's a great game. It's fun to play both sides, but it's a nice game.
Yeah. All right, what's your number 10?
It's a game called Kitchen Rush. Probably 2 years ago, I would be like, I don't even want to try this game. It looks dumb. And like it's real time, kind of little bit dexterous, but really not my thing. How Kitchen Rush works is you have 2 pawns, each of them are a timer. You move around a kitchen, taking different actions, but you're limited to how many players can be on each action. Only so many people can cook. Only so many people can be in the storage room. And it just captures that feeling of, we're in a kitchen, we have a lot of customers, we're bumping into each other, it's crazy. It's a pretty sweet game, and you really get to see yourself improve. Like, we first played and we sucked.
We were really bad.
But without, like, improving or upgrading in the game, we just learned to communicate better, organize how we were taking orders, and ran a tighter ship in the kitchen. So
the chaos of, I really want to fill my order. So you ask the table, especially when you're starting out, hey guys, does anyone need those noodles? And everyone's like, no, you have 4 minutes. You're like, okay, no need of noodles. I will take this card that needs noodles. Because in our storage room, there's noodles. And then like later on, you're like, I'm going to get those. Who took the noodles? Who took... They're like, well, I saw no one was doing anything, so I just decided to take the noodle. We have a plan here.
It's a wild game.
There we go.
So,
number 10.
Number 10.
All right, so my number 9 is a game where you get to lie. But, you know, it's fun to lie in games. You shouldn't lie in real life, but lying in games is fun. And this game is Sheriff of Nottingham. Basically, someone is a sheriff. And the sheriff gets to collect the bags that you put your goods into. So you're like, oh, my turn, I'm going to put these 5 apples in front of you. You can't just put your 5 apples down. You have to put them into a bag and clip it, then hand it to the sheriff. And the sheriff can say whether or not he wants to inspect your apples and see if you're telling the truth. Now, if you say, I have 6 apples in here, the sheriff will be like, I don't think that's possible. So they pop it over, they expect it. If they find contraband and you lie, you get punished. If there aren't contraband there, then they get punished for checking. So it ends up being just a really simple, fun bluffing game where you're just trying to really do simple set collection. You want the apples, you want the cheese, but it just leads for a lot of great moments. There's open bidding. You can tell the sheriff, you know, hey, don't open that bag yet. They don't pop the seal. You can say, wait, I'll give you 3 coins if you don't open that bag.
Speaking of lying, I don't have 9 more days.
Your hair looks great today.
Oh. I was just going to say I didn't make a list.
Oh.
My number 9 is also a game about lying. It is a little game that most people will read the box and pronounce Coop. However, the P is silent.
Wow.
How Coup works is you're given 2 cards which each have a roll on them, or they may be the same roll. There's 6 rolls in the game, I believe, and as you're playing, every time you take an action, you'll do 1 action on your turn, you declare a card and what roll it is. However, you don't reveal it to the table. So anytime that a card is declared, anyone at the table has the opportunity to say that you were lying, because you never have to be honest. You can honestly say, hey, I have a captain as one of the characters, and you could actually have a captain, or you could not. You could have an ambassador character and say, this is a captain, and you try to steal, which is the captain's action. Anytime a card is declared, someone at the table can challenge it. In the event of a challenge, you reveal your card. If you lied, your card dies. But if the other person was wrongly accused you, you get to kill one of their cards.
It's a good game. It's a very good, simple, short, like a deck of cards, too.
Deck of cards. You could fit it in your pocket. You literally could fit it in your pocket.
Yep.
So, the Coup. I don't know. I said
the Coup.
It's just the Coop.
All right, so we're on to my number 8. I will call it The Fog of Love. With the, because we're doing that now, I guess.
You gotta pronounce the word wrong.
The Fog of Love.
Lobe.
Okay, Fog of Love is hardly a game in some ways. There's an entire game they made, but they even tell you in the rulebook, you shouldn't be playing this to try to beat the game. It's a 2-player game only. You're just trying to see if you're two people in a relationship, trying to see if you're compatible. The best way to play the game is just it's almost role playing. So you have these traits you draw, like I'm a bad person, I'm angry, and I'm belligerent, and I'm also deceitful. And the other person's like, go to the
I'm honest.
Yeah.
I'm beautiful, and I'm forgiving.
I'm easily broken.
Easily manipulated.
But then what we tend to do this game, and you should do this when you play this game, you should not try to win. You know, say you get all these event cards that say, or your partner feels like you've lied to them. How do you handle this? And you're like, if you like, maybe you do the same option B, then you're going to gain relationship points. But you're a bad person, so you choose, you spit in their face and tell them they're wrong. And the other person will choose, I cry in a corner. And the game will say, if you chose this option, you guys lose 10 relationship points. It's hysterical.
I think more than any game I've ever played, this game creates moments.
Yeah.
And where you're just like, we can reference one thing that's been said when we played this a year ago.
Yeah.
And we'll just like lose it laughing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's like such a great moment. Or like when the characters did this, or, you know, we made up this one like story. And just like the cards will give you a simple, very open-ended little bit. Just expand on it. You know, throw yourself in the character. It's fantastic.
You'll see you'll have your career. You're like, I'm a policeman, and you'll see like your 3 traits, and you're like diligent, hardworking. The other person will like choose your features, and they'll be like face tattoo and jiggly legs. You're like, we're going to work with this.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Fog of Love, very unique. It's no other game is like it that we've ever played, really.
Never.
And it's also my favorite game. So, what you got?
All right, moving on. My number 8 is also a romantic role-playing game. It's called Seven Wonders Duel.
Oh, that was a joke.
Yeah,
I was scared.
not. All right, Seven Wonders Duel is what's called a card drafting game. And the idea of a card drafting game is that you both are picking cards from an available pool. And a lot of them you pass the deck around. In this one, everything's visible. There are no hidden things. You're not hiding cards from the other player.
Are hidden.
It's on the table. There's well, there are some hidden cards.
There are some hidden cards.
Okay, nothing's hidden from each other, I guess.
Yeah.
You're hiding from a structure. As I take a card out of the structure, it will reveal other cards to my opponent. So you'll be taking cards that produce you resources, that give you some special things, or you'll be taking cards that have military.
Yeah.
The thing I love about this game is that there's 3 ways to win, and they're all super legitimate. There's a victory point way to win, pretty standard. There's a military victory, and military victory is awesome because if you get to military conquest, which is moving a slider back and forth between the 2 civilizations, the game ends immediately. You've conquered the other city, game's over. It's a win. A scientific victory.
Yep.
Which you collect these special scientific symbols throughout the game. It's a really awesome game. I've played more games of this probably than any other game the last 3 or 4 years.
It has enough depth. We would play it early on, and when someone gets ahead in the victory points, someone has a better economy, they have more wood and stone and clay, you're like, at first we're like, okay, I can't catch you. But then it's interesting, like sometimes you play the game now and you really know it, and someone takes like a gold card, and you're like, I'm going to take a science token, which is typically a bad move, but you're like, I have to give myself that other route to victory. And take another gold card, and you're like, you gave me that science, you're like, I have a good chance of winning now, like just because you gave me 2 science. Or the person who's in the head, like, oh, I got to do the science. So there's like a lot of balancing out all 3 acts in it. So, yeah.
It's a wonderful game.
All right, so we're on to number 7, and number 7's already been said, Kitchen Rush. Are we on number 7?
Yeah.
We are on number 7.
We
It's
are
still
on number
Kitchen Rush.
7.
It's chaotic like the game. I planned that. Anyway, so yes, I totally agree with everything you say. I just like it when you don't walk around to see, here's 99 fantasy games. We can do a theme that's in the kitchen, and then it really works because people relate to this feeling of being in the kitchen. It also makes it easier to teach. And I've had people who play Kitchen Rush, and they look at the cards and they're like, ooh, what items are we baking? But you're like, oh, I need more meat, or I need to shop. Great game. Enough said. We already had it on there. You're up.
My number 7 is another game about lying. This one, rather than being a bluffing game like the first 2, is more of a social deduction game. And this game is The Resistance. I love The Resistance. It is a game similar to Mafia, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, Secret Hitler, if you played any of those games. It's the best one of all of them, in my opinion. It's the best one, and if you think
these are the greatest games of all time, suddenly...
The Resistance is a game where you all play as a team, trying to go on so many missions, 5, and trying to win 3 of them. Catch is 2 or more people on your team are actually bad guys. So, you are trying to send the right people on the mission. If any bad guy goes on the mission, he can put in a card to fail the mission, and the mission fails. One fail is a fail. So you need to make sure you're selecting the right team. So the goal of the game is to determine at the table who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. Another game that has just amazing moments and like rides the tension for the perfect amount of time, about 20 to 30 minutes of like really tense moments. And every time you get to that fifth round, if you have 2 bad guy wins and 2 good guy wins, you're like selecting that last team and you're like,
which
okay,
we normally do. You normally have 2 and 2.
It's almost always. You're like, that last team, you're like, okay. Like, can we get this last team done?
My favorite moment in the game ever is when you're the bad guy and everyone thinks you're good and you're revealing that last mission and everyone just like, okay, so we're going to flip 3 cards here, guys. It's everyone with me. Everyone's like, yeah. You're like, okay, so we got this. I'm like, yes. And you're like, okay, you flip a good card. Like, okay, flip another good card. And you're like, bad. You throw the cards and everyone's like, who was it? And you're just like, it was me the whole time. And it's like, no way. You're like, it feels really great to lie to your friends for a long time and then be like,
some people get really upset. Like, you lied to me.
yeah.
That's what the game is.
All right, so now we're on to number 6, the crew. The crew is super simple. Basically takes the old trick-taking mechanic in lots of games where, like, you play a heart. Everyone else must play a heart. The highest heart wins that suit. And that person's like, I want to lead in clubs. I have an ace of clubs. Everyone play a club and you win. That kind of idea where someone leads you have to play in suit, but they turn it into cooperative. And basically you would have things like, oh, we have to give Joel the blue 7. We don't know if Joel has a blue 8 or 9. 9's a high card. We have to figure out, so let's say someone plays a blue and Joel doesn't play any blues at all. We're like, oh, Joel doesn't even have a blue. I like it for lots of reasons. You can play a round in 5 minutes. So you can take it out. You can play 1 round. You can play 2. We actually play rounds in 3 minutes sometimes. But you can play like 2 hours if you want. Just go on to more missions or replay missions if you like them. It also seems to fit with a lot of people. Like I saw this game, there's so many different groups of people. And it always seems to land well.
It's an amazing game. The greatest endorsement I could really give is you can attest to the fact that I am unreasonably difficult to play card games with because I hate all of them.
Yes. This is Joel playing a card game. I'll shuffle for you, Joel.
I hate card games mostly because of their existence. So I think this is an amazing game.
It's a great game.
It is one of 2 taking games I actually like. And I think it's actually not just like I accept it and I'll tolerate it. It's like I actively would love to play this game. Yeah. It's a great game.
What you got?
All right, my number 6 is another cooperative game.
Wow.
It is consistently the hardest game I think I have.
Oh, yeah.
It is a game before I tell you, the first time I played this game, my friend told me, it's really hard. It'll like beat you up and take your lunch money too. I was like, okay. So
did he say those words?
That is actually what he said, yeah.
How old was this friend?
26, 27?
He'll beat you up and take
He's going to beat you up and take your It wasn't quite like that. He said, okay, we sat down and played on easy, and we lost, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, let's play it again. Like, we lost again. I was so mad. We did finally beat easiest the third time. That game is Ghost Stories.
No.
Ghost Stories, this beautiful game where you're being attacked on 4 sides of a board. Ghosts are coming in and attacking you, and you need to work to defend the ghost, because if a board fills up, those 4 players start dying. So you can play 2 to 4 players. It works great with all of them, because those 2 sideboards, like if you're playing 2 players, you play 2 players across from each other. The 2 sideboards become helpers that just have automated. You use their actions for bonus things, basically. There's 9 spaces on the board that are pretty self-explanatory with good iconography.
It probably does. It's not Kitchen Rush, but it does chaos so well in a non-real-time way. Yep. Where you play this game and sometimes you play and you're 3 turns in, you're like, guys, like sometimes like every turn you draw a ghost, and sometimes they're doing well, but you know in that deck there are these ghosts that say you draw a ghost, draw another ghost. And sometimes you draw 4 in a row and you're like, okay, we don't take care of this. Every time we've won this game, every time we've been ready to almost pack it in, like, well, we can't win. Let's just start a new round. Like, well, let's try it. And it's always winning on like the last possible turn. And yeah, we win less than half the games. Yeah. We're good at games, and we don't win it that often. I don't know if we're good at games. Are we good at games?
I'm not. You statistically, you are pretty good.
I
am not.
Statistically,
I have stats on everything we played for like 6 years.
Wow.
I'm really bad at games, and you're pretty good at games.
Ghost Stories brings me down. Actually,
it does. Use the Buddha. That's all I can say.
Oh yeah,
use the Buddha.
And that's our number 6. No questions. All right, so we're on to number 5. I think there's going to be a lot of copies. Unfortunately, my number 5 is The Resistance. If you play the game right, it should be like sometimes 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and you just like you laugh and you say, "Oh, we lost. Let's try it again."
I've already sang its praises. It's a great game. It does have that, like, you don't really feel like you get bored of the game because the game is just human interaction.
You get bored of your
Like-
friends first.
It's true.
If you're bored of the game, you need new friends.
Exactly. All right, my number 5 is a game that used to be my all-time favorite game. I
Whoa.
probably would have said for years this and its predecessor were like my game. I loved them. I would play them anytime.
confused now.
I still love it. It's not my number 1 anymore. It is Eldritch Horror. Basically, like a crisis management game that has its own investigation side to it. You're kind of moving around the world with your team cooperatively, taking care of monsters and dealing with events as they pop up. These events are called gates, and they're gates that open from like a Cthulhu universe, Lovecraftian world, and monsters are coming through. There's also an element of you're trying to solve a mystery. The mystery has special steps you have to solve. You have to go get clues by going to special events. Sometimes those are conversations. Sometimes those are fights or closing gates. What I love about the game is it's really good at cooperative, and the characters are tremendously different. And there's always this lingering threat of the Ancient One coming in, and once the Ancient One's there, you probably won't win. But it's possible.
It's a good game. I would put it on a greatest list more than a favorites list. I just wouldn't be excited if you said, "Hey, let's play this game right now." If you asked me, "Is this a good game?" I'd be like, "Yeah." If I do want to play it right now, I'd be like, "There's a lot of other shorter games we have that I feel like I would maybe engage my brain more."
I love it.
He's wrong. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great game. All right, on to number 4. It's really different than anything else on my list. It's actually the only one of this type of game on my list. So this is a pure strategy game. By that I mean that there's no luck, there's no cards, there's no drawing, there's no drafting. You're not gonna be like, "Oh, I did this, I
guess?
tricked you." It's 1-on-1 or 1-on-2.
now I
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
know.
What is it?
It's Santorini.
Santorini. So all you do is you have a grid, and you every turn you move, and wherever you move, around the space where you move, you build. There's 3 things you build: a level 1 block, a level 2 block, or a level 3 block. You're trying to stand on a level 3. Every turn, if you're by level 1, you can jump up 1 level, you can place. You have to move, you're just trying to work your way up and stand on 3rd level. It seems really simple. You can play just that, and the strategy is immense. You're just like, how do I get to a 3rd level? Anyone can jump on each other's towers. Nothing is claimed. So how can I not let them get on 3rd level before me? It gets competitive. It's just a 5x5 grid. It's really simple. What I think takes this game from being like, okay, it's not my number 1 category game. I like playing games like this, but it's not my number 1 pick. Like this pure, it's called abstract strategy games. What goes from being like, oh, that's a fun thing we did a couple times, to I think what I keep coming back to is the base game comes with 30 special power cards, and these are not the like little tiny. Well, here's a little perk you get. Your character. This is like, oh, you can just move twice. And you're like, well, if I can move twice and he can't, there's no way he can beat me. If you play the base game enough, one move is everything. But the other person looks at their card and they're like, oh, if I'm standing on a higher level than you and you're by me, you die. And you're like, what? Okay, so you just play this out. And so it's a match of 2 insane powers that are both way, way, way overpowered. But the game works because all the powers are that good. And they're balanced. I don't know how they balanced it so well. This game is great because of matchups. I mean, I played it a lot, I feel like. And I still I haven't played all the cards yet. There's 30 cards. And then I haven't played all of them against everyone else. But yeah, if you like that kind of game, like if you like checkers, chess, pure strategy, but you kind of want like a fresh take on that, it's a really good one.
My number 4 has already appeared on your list. It is a very romantic game called Fog of Love.
Fog of Love.
I think we've almost said everything there's to say. I love the moments it creates. You need to find the right person who's going to want to pretend that they're in a romantic relationship with you. And if you have that...
And if you find that person... if you can survive this board game, though...
That's true.
You can get through anything. All right, we are on...
Viticulture.
Shut up, I haven't given my intro yet.
Sorry. Am I right, though?
Intro time.
Sorry.
One of my favorite types of games is worker placement.
Viticulture.
I'm trying to cue people into this. Basically, it's like a game where you say, oh, I want to do this thing. I want to get coins, or I want to take this action. I want to build a building. But instead of just reading a book saying these are things you can do, you place little people on those spots, often blocking other people from going to those spots.
I was convinced this would already be on the list I'm only shocked if that is your number 3 because I thought you liked other games more. I know you love this.
Okay, I struggle a little bit with. I think getting to my top 10 was really easy. I know my 11 and 12 should not be in my top 10. It was actually pretty simple to get to 10 games. I felt really confident. Ordering my top 10, an hour before this list was done, I had Resistance number 1. And I was like, it has to drop. It can't be my number 1. But it's hard to put them in order once they're there. Viticulture is a great game. Basically, you're making wine. There's a very accessible theme. I've taught this to a lot of people who maybe are like, oh, I don't really play a lot of types of board games. The theme kind of helps. You're building structures. You're picking grapes, you're making them to wine, and then you're selling them. And it's a race to 20 points. You're trying to kind of count out your actions. It has that blocking. It really changes on the different player counts. You play this as a 2-player. Be a very mean, kind of aggressive game, which I like that. A lot of player interaction where I know you want that spot. I took it. Okay, I know you have to make wine this turn. I'm going to take it first, But then as a higher player counts, the board kind of opens up. There's more spots available, but good game. Check it out.
My number 3 is a game probably everyone who's into board games has had to hear about it an insufferable amount of times. And if you haven't, good for you.
It's about to happen right now.
It's called Gloomhaven. Oh. Gloomhaven's been, unfortunately, you haven't got to play it. I've been playing it for almost 5 years now. A mission here and there to the as part of the main campaign. We finally finished it. We've moved on to the expansion. But I think it's 110, 120 missions overall. And it's a beautiful dungeon crawl with a great combat mechanics. And on top of that, it's got really good RPG elements where you get to build a character. And it's got a really cool, engaging story that has tons of interconnected paths. You can find parts of the story by going this way and going this way. And you learn different things. And even after you've played a character and retired that character, you'll still hear about that character through other stories that come into play after your character retires. So it's a great experience. It's just a perfect role-playing experience without the need for a dungeon master if you're going to play Dungeons & Dragons. I don't think it's perfect at everything, but there's nothing that even attempts it. There's other legacy games like Pandemic Legacy, but Pandemic Legacy is basically just 10 separate missions.
It's the one game on your list I have not and will never play, I bet.
Probably not.
Not because I don't think I would like it, I just don't want to commit. I'm not going to buy it for 3 missions.
So there's a game called Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion they put out. I'm sure you've seen it. It's a little lighter. And the problem I have with that, though, and is why I would probably never make a list like this, is that it's like a lighter dungeon crawl. And in my opinion, I've already played better dungeon crawls.
Yeah.
It's just that Gloomhaven has the whole package. So I don't know if I really would want just the dungeon crawl from Gloomhaven.
We should do a sub list right now of Ryan's favorite dungeon crawl games. All right, on to the next thing.
It's a really good transition.
I just gave you my first worker placement game. It's not going to take long to get a second one.
Are they all 3 worker placement?
I'm not telling you all the secrets.
Is it Dune Imperium?
It's Dune Imperium.
I knew it! Wait, so what's the number 1?
You know what? I don't know if I like it more than Viticulture. This is kind of the thing about my favorite games right now. If you pulled one out and said, what do you want to play? I probably would go for Dune Imperium right now because I played it a lot less. Would it hold up if I might have played Viticulture 15 times. If I played Dune Imperium 15 times, I had the same level of excitement. I don't know. Basically, what Dune Imperium does is it takes kind of like the Viticulture style. You have a map with spots you're going to. But then it incorporates what's called deck building. And deck building is a really cool mechanism where you always start with 10 cards in all these games. Sure. But you have 10 cards, you draw 5, and they have different things you can do. And so you're like, okay, cool. I can do these 5 things. I pick a card to play, and when I play that card, I want to put one of my guys out there on the board. It says I can go to this spot. And so everyone starts out the same deck. As the game goes on, though, you purchase new cards. You put them in your discard pile. Once you go through all 10 cards, maybe you have more cards here, you shuffle them in, you do it again. So as you go through the game, your deck gets better. And these games are always fun because by the end, you're like, I'm so powerful. So it kind of takes these 2 mechanisms that are they're really 2 different games. One's worker placement and one's deck building, and they integrate it really well. It's also really tight. It's not like who gets the most points. That you play to 10. When you get to 10 points, you stop. And so the game, like every game, if you feel like you lose out on a point you thought you were going to get, you're like, it's over. It's a very, very, very tight game.
I'm not afraid to express a strong opinion. It's more fun than Viticulture.
Whoa.
And I like Viticulture. But I think the deck building and the shopping and the war element that's going on just make it a more interesting play for me.
I think the reason why I almost put Viticulture in front of Dune Imperium you need 3, but it's great at 4. You can play 2 and it's fine, but 3 or 4. Viticulture is really good at 2. I think it's really good at 3. It's really good at 4. I haven't tried 5. I'm imagining 5 and 6 is long, but it's really good. And it actually has a good solo mode too that I thought was fun. So Viticulture is good at 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Dune Imperium 4 was great experience. 3s have been okay experiences. So a little more flexible.
My number 2 is Cosmic Encounter. Another game that breaks my heart. Like, my greatest star was, you don't like
Greatest
this game.
star. I do like
very
the
much.
game.
You're sure. This is it. Ryan says, hold on, I'm going to give you context. Ryan's like, I do like this game. And then I'm like, Cosmic Encounter, like, yeah, it's just like, it doesn't really work. People are always mad.
I do say I like it, then I stare off into space sometimes with all the bad memories.
I don't know what genre to really call it because it's just unique. But
Yeah.
basically, it's a game, like a conquest style game. I hate to call it that. Your goal is to take 5 planets that aren't your own. And you're going to put ships on. You can invite allies to help you attack that player. And the defender can also ask allies to come help defend them. Now, you can also negotiate and make agreements to win encounters rather than have allies or rather do it through violence. What makes the game go from just pretty solid mechanics to being amazing is there's like over 100 characters, and every character completely changes the way you have to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
The powers, I love the feeling. I start the game, you get 2 characters to pick from, and I always look at them and I'm like, wow, they're both so powerful. Like, if I play this character, I can't be stopped. And you're like, all right, here we go. And then you look at the other ones and you're like, they're powerful too.
Right.
Like, as someone...
Your ships can't die.
Yeah, it is stuff like that. Like, your ships can't die.
Right.
Or, like, one person's just like, don't let anyone win, and a timer will win the game.
Yeah.
My favorite character in the game is called the Loser.
Yeah.
I really resonate with that character. But any encounter that he loses, he could say, I'm going to declare this an upset, and the loser gets to win.
Right,
So
yeah.
the lower score gets to win the fight. So it's a brilliant game. Every character will dramatically alter the way you play the game. So even if you play with the same player count, you'll have a dramatically different experience every time you play because your powers will completely change how you play. So
I feel like I just need to have that
No.
experience where it's great. But I do believe you. When I see it, I'm like, this works. But,
there's a lot of rules. There's 8 phases to the turn, which are simple phases, but it's not heavy, but it's not light. Not too heavy, not too light. That's the power of the Home Depot.
No. I think we should move on now.
Honorable mentions. Let's go through the games that almost made your list, but didn't. Hit me with it.
Well, I'm not going to say 1 because I will steal your thunder. My number 11 has to be your number 1.
Uh-huh.
Because you haven't said it yet. So I'll skip my number 11. Number 12 is Ghost Stories. Emotep is a great... You didn't really like Emotep.
Played it once.
I've only had one bad experience. Ever.
Hold on. You chose twice in a row to teach me a new game after 2 a.m. and then blame the bad experience on me.
wait, let's recap this. This is Joel at 2 a.m. Yeah, I feel great. I'm like, are you sure? I'm so ready. And then 2 minutes later, I guess I'll go there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I thought you were great.
It's late.
he crashes hard. He crashes. He might crash soon, actually, right now. So anyway,
We'll get to this list, the number 1. My
Whatever,
number
it doesn't
1.
matter. It doesn't matter.
It's Emotep.
this is a phrase he uses all the time when he's like losing late at night. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I'm just ready to go to bed. I don't
Doesn't matter.
care who
And
wins.
then we'll stop and he's like, do you want to watch some anime? So anyways, the other ones I have on here is Suburbia, the only great city building board game.
The only one that was ever good.
Cosmic Encounter, Small World, then Robinson Crusoe.
So for me, my number 11 was Dune Imperium.
Okay, I was wondering. If
I
it
was really like, as fighting with those top 8, I'm like, do I like Coup and Kitchen Rush more than Dune Imperium? And I think just right now I do. All right, I'm not going to say my 12 because it ties into my number 1. My number 13 is Robinson Crusoe. Amazing co-op game, one of the best. Number 14 is Viticulture. And then my number 15 is kind of a repeat. It's the main reason it's not up here that high. It's Cosmic Encounter Duel.
I feel like you set me up earlier today. You were like, I really like worker placement games. And I'm like, I should have said how much. You would have been like, I don't know, 11 to 15 kind of range.
All right, we have arrived at the final answer.
The final answer. This is the number 1 greatest game of all time.
Objectively, of what we're gonna have 2 different games, it will objectively be.
It's-
I don't know yours. I thought it for sure was Dune. Maybe yours is really obvious. I thought for sure it was Dune Imperium this
It's
whole time.
really obvious. You know this game. You're just not thinking of it.
Is it Everdell?
No.
Okay.
Actually, I do like Everdell a lot, but it's not Everdell.
Do you own this game?
Yeah,
You own it.
I own it, and you own it. And there's
Is it Seven Wonders Duel? It's such a good game. I love you didn't. So when I said it, you didn't really.
I know.
You
I was
weren't
trying
that
to keep it
excited
cool.
about it. I was like, I really thought Ryan loved Seven Wonders Duel with me, but you were just so like kind of like chill. Like, I guess he doesn't like it as much as I thought he did. It should be my number. It's a perfect.
Why did you do number one?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's only 8. It deserved to be higher.
I might have 100 plays of this game.
Yeah.
Maybe at least 50 easily, but maybe 100. And I find that first of all, you have a lot of, you can lose from bad luck, but typically you have a lot of control. Both players are kind of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
There are things like go again wonders where if you use them, you don't use them that often, but sometimes you can get an extra action. And that just like, you see they have a go again wonder. You really want a card up there that's going to get revealed and possibly for a turn. So you're trying to save your Gogan Wonder, but do you kind of take the risk of doing this now? And there's seriously times in the game where like when you're good at it, you'll see stuff like, oh man, if they count those cards and they can take that military card right there, I can't win by military. You know that. And you're like just thinking like it's almost like a bluffing game. You're just like you're trying to pretend like you're not going for the military card because once you show your hand at that and they start buying military cards, like it's over, right?
Yeah.
So there's like it's just so deep. And again, like I mentioned earlier, once you know this game, it gets better. I can't think of any other 2-player game that's even in that ballpark. It does everything you want to do. It's just a great game. It's older now.
Yeah.
We've had 7 years to make a better game than this, and I don't think a better 2-player game exists. So
I agree.
there you go. Number 1. And it's your number 8.
Perfect.
That's your biggest flaw.
It probably should be higher.
I kind of factored in again, I played it 50 to 100 times, and I still love it. Anyways, what's your number 1? Battlestar Galactica, ruined it. How does it feel?
Shut up. It's Battlestar Galactica. My number 12 was Unfathomable. So if you can't get Battlestar Galactica, pick up Unfathomable.
Oh, yeah.
It's mostly the same game.
My number 11 is Unfathomable.
Oh, but Battlestar Galactica is a better game. You're wrong. So, Battlestar Galactica...
I'm just trying to ruin your entire number 1.
Battlestar Galactica is another game that's cooperative. You're working on a team, but there's traitors in your midst. If there's a show that exists. It's got a fun space theme. What you're doing is trying to survive as long as possible to get to Kobol, the end of the game. So you need to survive, jump so far through space to arrive at your destination, but you have 4 different sliders: food, morale, population, and fuel. If any of those run out, you lose the game. You can't have everyone die. You can't run out of fuel. You can't run out of food, right? And you can't have morale get so low. And there's a mutiny. Everyone dies. You do different crises every turn. A big event happens. There's a space battle going on outside that you're trying to mitigate. And one of the other core mechanics is you can always jump ahead faster. You can speed up the game and try to get to the end. But if you do it too soon, you can cause yourself a lot of damage. You're going to lose population and fuel. So the longer you can hold out, the better. But you also take more damage the longer you hold out. So it's a game of trying to weigh what's it worth. And you run into a lot of situations in the game where you're trying to appease people, whether you're the good guy or the bad guy. You're like, you don't want to look bad. So what should I do? What do people want me to do? And it's really great as the bad guy to be like, oh, that's what people want me to do. And then you're like, oh, that hurt us. So you're like, darn,
right.
You guys told me to do it. So
right.
It's an amazing game. It does the traitor mechanic. I love Resistance, of course. Those are great games. What I do love about this one, it's just a little more epic. There's big stakes. The game takes, if you're lucky, 2 hours. Big stakes. The stakes are bigger. If you're lucky, it's about 2 hours. And I think it has enough content to fill out that time. It's not a game that just
3 hours.
that drags on for no
4
reason.
hours.
It could. But it has interesting content and things that happen.
It's just, that length. Which is actually a good thing because I've been sitting here for 3 hours keeping up this charade of pretending to be good. And it's like, you go through phases where, for half an hour people are pretty convinced you're bad. Then you kind of can sort of shift the blame away. Then for the next hour people might be convinced that you're good. But it's like that length, I think, makes the game what it is. It really couldn't be... You couldn't streamline this and make it 45 minutes. I think part of what I like about it is that's why it's even close to my top 10 because I'm like, well, I have the Resistance for the short one that check, But what's the other? It didn't make my top 10 just because, Mysterium and Sheriff and Fog of Love exist. But it's right there. I really like it just for that super unique experience. It's not, I wouldn't want any of the other games on my top 10 to be close to that long. All right, those are our top 10 games. Like I said, those are our top 10 favorite games right now. So that just gives us the agency next year to make another one of these.
Change it all.
And we said we didn't say they were the greatest of all time. We just said they're our favorite right now.
Exactly.
So if you ever see us and want to play a game, now you know how to be our friends. You should do what we want.
I think I wouldn't say no to any of mine, and I also wouldn't say no to any of yours.
I would almost say that, except
Eldritch Horror?
Eldritch. That'd be the only
You're
one.
just so wrong about Eldritch Horror.
No, I think it's a great game. I think it's the one I'd be like, do we have anything else here? All the other ones. I'm saying I
So
like 9 out of your
sad.
10 games. I'm trying
I
to
gave
give
you all 10. Don't respect his opinions on nothing.
Wow. Anyways, so yeah, those are our top 10
Such
games. Let us know what your favorite
positive-
games are. If there's anything that you really love that you're like, well, or you have any suggestions, because there's a lot of games that we haven't played. You're like, hey, you guys like this, and this. You might like this one as well. So let us know in the comments if there's anything that you'd like that we should try out, and subscribe to us because we're cool. And maybe to see videos too, but mostly because we're cool.
Yeah. That'd be nice. See y'all next time.